So maybe Nashville should just be for country music and maybe Titans football? What's going on, guys? KWolfe back with another video. I know I'm a day behind with doing this. I was actually in Nashville for the weekend, so I got to see everything in person. And what the heck happened Saturday night? That is entirely too much drama, moments, whatever word you want to use, for a single night of racing. And if you refer back to my video that I made last week, the preview of going into the weekend of Nashville, particularly hitting on that 250 East-West, showdown combination race. Things can happen when you mix East and West, and they did. They absolutely did. You get multiple guys from multiple coasts, top guys, all crashing together, and bad things happen, and we get both championships completely flipped upside down on their head. But before we get into that, I'll just kind of back up a little bit. I saw a lot of comments on various posts. I should have screenshotted them, but I didn't. If I found them, I'll put them up here and I'll read them. But I saw so many posts where people were complaining about the track. The track sucked. The track was prepped wrong. If you've never worked on a motocross track before, a supercross track, certainly most people have never worked on a supercross track, but unless you've actually done a full prep on a motocross track, shut up. Clearly, people don't know what the hell they're talking about. Dirtworks knows what they're doing. That's why they have had that contract for 30 plus years. You can't have a contract that long without knowing what you're doing. It rained again, like it's done damn near every weekend this year. It rained again. So what is Dirtworks left to do? They have to cover the track. They have to remove the plastic. They have to water it. Then it rains again. There's only so much they can do. A lot of direction coming from Feld Motorsports, but Dirtworks knows what they are doing when it comes to the track. Maybe Nashville just isn't it. Whether it's got a jinx on it or a voodoo curse, whatever the deal is, just Nashville hasn't gone well the last 2 years. You back up to 2023. Anderson goes off the track into the wall. He did it right in front of me. In the main event, Barsha goes over the bars over the dragon back right in front of me. You also got in that heat race, you had Cooper Webb almost getting killed by Adam Cincerillo. 3 top guys all out before the main event's over. Okay, freak deal, freak year. You move on to 2024. What do we get? McAdoo gets hurt in practice. Not his fault, not Logan Leitzel's fault. So before everybody starts commenting it's Logan Leitzel's fault, it's not his fault. Cameron McAdoo even says on his Instagram, it is not his fault. So everybody can shut up about that one. Then we get later into the night, McAdoo's hurt. Because of that, I saw him on the ground for that one, but I didn't realize what had happened. I didn't actually see the crash, but I saw him on the ground picking the bike up. You move on into the night, McAdoo and Kitchen go down in turn 2 of the main event. Then you get Chase Sexton crashing when the bike whiskey throttles it off that second jump, and it's a good thing that it happened there and not a second and a half later, because if it would have happened when he landed, he would have been in the 5th row of the stands. Now, luckily, nobody was sitting there because that's part of the kill zone. The first 10 rows, 12 rows, whatever are is the kill zone. All those seats are killed off. But if that would have happened later, that would have been the end of Sexton's season, possibly the end of Sexton's career. Then we get the big one with Kenny and the shock blowing up. Something happened with that shock. It wasn't put together wrong. It wasn't seated wrong. Something went wrong with a component in that shock that caused the thing to heat up and blow apart. It wasn't put together wrong. Those suspension guys, show and everything else, they know what they're doing. Something failed. An internal component failed, whether it was the piston inside the shock wasn't letting the oil get through enough so it wasn't cooling. And they run external coolers on those things because they're putting through so much abuse. Something failed in there, and even somebody said on a post or Kenny's post or whatever, the shock cooler failed, the shock overheated, it blew up. So when you factor all that in over the last 2 years, maybe Nashville is just not the place to go. And aside from all the racing incidents, you look at the crowd and it wasn't good. I even had my dad texting me, and they were actually showing on the broadcast. I haven't watched the broadcast back, but you actually have on the broadcast them showing the crowd, and there were bare spots. Even on the lower levels, there were bare spots. I was sitting in rider seating, and there were empty seats. There are never empty seats in the rider seating section, and there were empty seats Saturday night in Nashville. And I was talking about it with a friend of mine. We were both, hinting on the fact that maybe it's because compared to every other race venue on the series, The stadium is directly across the river. All you got to do is walk across a bridge, and you're in downtown on Broadway. And I went down to Broadway Friday night. I went downtown, went to several of the bars, checked out the scenery, checked out the atmosphere. They shut down Broadway after a certain point of the night. There were probably more people on Broadway than there in the bars in downtown Nashville than there were in the stadium. I think there is too much going on. There's too much to do within a short walk, within a 10-minute walk of the stadium, for it to make sense to put, a Supercross in Nashville. Supercross has still not made it to the mainstream enough to come close to the NFL, the NBA. It makes sense for the Titans football team to be there because you put 69,000 people in there, because the reason I say that is because that's the capacity of that stadium. Most people on a Sunday afternoon, once the game is over, are gonna go across the river into downtown and drink. It's not going to be a split between Supercross that's not in the mainstream and then the 130 bachelorette parties that are going on in every single bar across Broadway and 3rd Avenue and everything else. So I know I'm getting off the rails here. We got to look at, why is this happening? Why did all this happen 2 years in a row? And you cannot blame the track crew. You can blame the direction that the track crew is receiving, as far as not having more than 9 whoops, not having loader whoops, no dragons backs. Felder's making calls that is making the tracks break down worse. And then, I've seen it on other videos, and you guys have seen it, I'm sure, in forum threads and whatever else. People are saying, let's cut the knobs down, whatever else. Well, until we do that, I've got a great idea for how we can fix this and how we can get more track maintenance in. We're on Peacock now, correct? We're not on live TV, except for when the races are specifically broadcast live on NBC. The 1, maybe 2 races a year that we actually get that, and we're actually in a large mainstream audience. Hopefully. Since we're on Peacock for 15 out of the 17 races, what needs to happen is we treat it like Formula 1. Formula 1 race is typically 2 hours. What they do, though, is if there is a red flag incident, a major crash, debris on the track, they have to shut the race down, whatever it is. Yeah, the typical race is about 1 hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours. They have a 4-hour window from the time the first, lights off, to start the race to the time the checkered flag comes out. They have a 4-hour window. Supercross is fitting everything in a 3-hour window, and we have to do track maintenance all within that 3 hours. Yeah, people have to be home. People have to drive home. Why can't we do it a 4-hour window, build some extra track maintenance in for Dirtworks so they can fix the track, make the track more raceable for the guys, instead of fixing 2 spots, having only 6 minutes to fix 2 spots, and then that's it, and we get possibly a 1-line slot car track on some nights. Let's build in more time. We can't do it this year, and there's only 3 races left. But moving into 2025, why can't that be an option? Let's put a 4-hour window in. People are going to watch the race. If they're not going to watch the race, then they're at least going to watch the replay the next morning. It's a Sunday. For the most part, most people aren't racing on Sundays because it's the winter. We have the ability to do this. We have the time to do this. Let's do it. It costs no more for the building rentals, the crews, the staffing, all that. It costs no more to have everybody there for 1 more hour. We had to squeeze everything anyway, and we probably even went over. I didn't look, but we probably went over because the first heat race of the night in the 250 class was red flagged. Hopefully Garrett Marchbanks is okay. I haven't seen an update yet, but there has got to be a way to get more track maintenance in. If we're not going to do anything to the bike technology, to the tire technology, whatever have you, build more time in so we can get more track maintenance. I know I went on a rant here, but that's my opinions. I see all the comments and everybody freaking out, and so many people have no idea what they're talking about. They have never been part of a race. They have never been part of track maintenance. They have never ridden anywhere close to that level. They don't know what they're talking about. But we've got Philly this weekend. Before I get into that, this is part of that point. This is part of the point, going into Philly. But Nashville is an expensive city. I stayed 6 miles outside of downtown and paid $100 a night for a hotel. You go into downtown and you're paying $250 a night for a hotel. Nashville is an expensive city. It's already expensive enough without having to go to a Supercross, pay that much for tickets, everything else. Now, the reason I bring that up is because this weekend we're going to Philadelphia, and that's an expensive city too. The trucks the semis are going to have a bad enough time with the toll booth fees that they're going to get here in about 2 months after the race is over, when they're going to be paying $500 in tolls. The reason I know that is because I went to Philly 2 years ago over New Year's, drove through 3 tolls twice, and it was $200 in a car. I bet you we're going to go to Philly once, and that's going to be it, because the riders are not going to be able to afford to go to Philadelphia. Even the guys that make the show, the money that they get for the show does not offset all their extra costs of going to Philadelphia for 3 days. Just, it's not happening. So, Philly this weekend, both championships are on their head. Kenny's going to be sore. Chase is going to be sore. Just get these guys through the next 3 races, and then can we please revamp a lot of stuff for next year? That's all I'm asking. We've got to do something to make this a little bit better, make it a little bit safer, give us better racing, whatever, anything else that we can throw into this to make the sport grow, make it better, yada, yada, yada. Let's do that. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.